You can also play games with your kids, but I recommend that unless your kids are like really into the lower plane, and even then sometimes like competitive games can make the sibling rivalry worse. And
For sure.
yeah, I know. You really love competitive games, and so I don't know if you had a different experience growing up with them, but for younger children especially, I think collaborative games are going to lead you to more positive sibling happy relationships, and competitive games can really make things harder.
Well, I think when you use competitive games where one, especially the younger or smaller, is always at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
It feels demoralizing. I think if you have a competitive game and there's an equality, it can be fun and natural. And healthy competition is an important part of human existence. It doesn't have to mean exploitation or dominance or corruption. But it can feel good, especially, I know, like I'll speak for our own boys, like competition, especially physical competition, is just sort of in them. They want to see who can run faster, jump higher. They just did it last night when they were, they're older teens now, and they raced home. They tried to race each other from the park. They just naturally kind of came up with it. So I think competition in itself is not bad. I think it's when you associate it with these high stakes, or you create circumstances where it's just unfair. Like you can never, of course, the 7-year-old is always going to be able to run faster than the 3-year-old.
Right.
Right? Or beat him in checkers or something.
Right. But how about like a game of chance? Like we've got lots and lots of games out there that are being made for kids that involve a clear winner and a clear loser. And in my experience, older kids like ours who are already teenagers, upper L kids generally handle that much better.
Well, they're in the second plane. They haven't...
The second half of the second plane.
Yeah, so they develop ethical reasoning.
Children under the age of 9...
They have not developed
They don't handle
reasoning.
it well.
Yeah, they haven't... They're not they haven't matured through the moral age yet. And so the world is more black and white. I mean, it's literally a sensorial world for babies. And it's a long walk from the sensorial to the full abstract world of, let's say, a 12-year-old. Right? By the time you get to 12, you've kind of... A 12-year-old's brain and an adult's brain aren't dissimilar, really that dissimilar in terms of what they can like learn and remember and process. But before you get to that point, there's a lot of maturation that has to happen. And so I agree. I think cooperative games are great.
Unfortunately, there are a lot more options for cooperative games.
But my answer to your question of like the competitive game, if it's a game of chance, I think part of it, and this goes with like a 3-year-old isn't going to understand this, but it's still something you can convey. You did nothing to win if it's a game of chance. Like, it's just the luck of the draw, and that there's also a life lesson in that as well about fairness and how games work and play, and then putting your own victory in the right context. And again, I think for a 3 or 4-year-old, they're not gonna get that. But I think this is a lesson you'd want to start teaching a second plane child, to have them understand.
And second plane is 6 and up.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, what you want them to understand is
what I've
life is
noticed
not fair.
Under 6s, kids can completely lose it when they lose the game.
Sure.
And just be super frustrated when you could get into tantrum land.
Sure.
They just developmentally aren't in a place to really be able to understand that kind of competition. So I guess I hear what you're saying, that competitive games aren't necessarily bad, that they offer good lessons to teach children about life and about...
They can be fun.
And they can be fun. But if you're thinking specifically about sibling dynamics and you've got children that are tending to bicker and pester each other and fight, competitive games aren't going to get you...
You're just going to enhance the rivalry.
Right. You're just going to stoke a fire. And so my personal thought is, if you've got an issue like this with young children, stay away from the competitive games until they're older and their relationship is a little more stable.
Yeah, if you're a Roman emperor and you're trying to create a brood of cutthroat offspring to challenge for the throne, then I would say go all in on the competitive games. But if you're like trying to teach a loving relationship, and then yes, I think you have to be mindful of how the competitive game works, especially when there is an inherent disadvantage on one side because of age, ability, size, something like that.